So, in a word, I'm trying to get words for everybody. So those of you who were here last week or Sunday, you know, in presenting and introducing, when I think about a word for Owen, I want youth action team, without a word, not youth action team, sorry, youth ambassadors, without a word. If there's a motion for Owen, let's do it together. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's unquestionable. Owen, why don't you join? So, I mean, yes, that's the motion, yes, that's the gesture, but really with it, the words are, well, connection and community, but really love, presence, eagerness, you know, just stepping into every experience, wanting more from every experience, whether it's, you know, a professor or a temple or hanging out with the teens from Himalayan Children's Charities, climbing a mountain. You were, even in the times that you might have had a stomach ache, and we like made you put on a t-shirt to take a group picture. So, this is Owen. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Owen Barrett. This is my presentation about connection, community, and my trip to Nepal. So the Maya Gold Foundation is a foundation that is meant to empower youth to access their inner wisdom and realize their dreams. So it helps local teens around the Hudson Valley to gain knowledge and wisdom about themselves and empowers them to realize this. So the Maya Gold Foundation does some things locally, but the thing that obviously I have experience with is the Nepal trip. The Nepal trip was the trip that the Maya Gold Foundation has, where we spend like around 2 weeks in Nepal. It's Hudson Valley kids, and we experienced so many things there. The whole thing was just such an amazing trip. I can't even think of like one single thing that was like the best part. We visited monasteries, we talked with locals, we visited local schools, children's homes, we did service, and we did so many different things. The point of this trip is cultural exchange, service, and just learning about ourselves, learning about Nepal, and learning about everything that we could. And I feel like a huge part of this learning was about connection and community. This is the bus that we took to the airport. Not exactly the most exciting Nepal photo, but I feel like this was a big moment because it was a time that we really stepped into the trip. It wasn't really just talking about it anymore. We were stepping into the reality of it, and a very long bus ride. This is the first time that I felt a connection sort of forming between us teens, really. Because before, you know, we had multiple meetings, but it was like sort of long apart. It was really on this bus ride that we sort of like broke down the social boundaries and we started talking more to each other and sort of forming these connections that would show more on the trip later on. This day was very fun. This is a photo we took in front of a temple. Not everyone's in this picture. Sorry, Matthew. But it was a great day. We took a rickshaw ride, which is like, you know, those bicycle things. The connections that we sort of formed on this trip, what really helped that and also helped our understanding of the trip was that we were just experiencing something that was totally new. It was like plunging into a river, having never been in a river before. You know, I'd only been in like lakes. So it was totally new, and experiencing this with other people allowed me to, you know, just connect with them more and to get to know them better. Because we got to see how each of us would react to things. We got to see how we would, you know, support each other during something difficult, or how we would just have fun with each other when there was something boring happening, like a long bus ride. It was just great, and all these like shocking new experiences, you know, the shock of seeing a new culture, the shock of witnessing things that we might not have seen before, just sort of brought us closer together and sort of interwove a sort of community between us. The big other half of community and connection and how it relates to this trip was definitely talking with people from Nepal. These photos here are from one of the last things that we did, which was a hike through Gadawari Forest, which is in the outskirts of the Kathmandu Valley. This hike was a lot of fun. It was great. And a big part of this was that we hiked with these teens who were from Himalayan Children's Charities, which is an organization in Nepal that helps children and teens. And we did a lot of our activities with them. It was like just this hike wasn't the only time. There was long bus rides that we took to like some of the outer schools, and we took one like out to a historical Buddhist site. And on these bus rides, we went with the kids from the Himalayan Children's Charities, or HCC. And each of us would sit with one of the kids that, I guess I shouldn't call them kids because most of them are older than me. But it was just great getting to sit down with them and just talking with one of the individuals. You know, we'd ask questions to each other about just random everyday things. You know, like, what sports do you play? What do you enjoy? What's your favorite holiday? And through just these small interactions, we got a little closer look into the community that they had. We sort of formed a connection with them. I know I certainly like bonded with a couple of the kids there, and it was really just great getting to know each of them. Another great thing right here, we in the mornings, some of the mornings, we would have professionals and professors and people who like knew a lot about things come in, and they'd do like talks for us. And this is one of those talks. And through these talks, we got to know things before we experienced them and as we were experiencing them. This really helped us connect more to the things that we saw and helped us understand it more deeply. And also, like, since we all would share this knowledge and learn it together, me and the other youth ambassadors sort of like grew more of a connection through this shared knowledge, like a little secret club. This great sort of community that we formed also allowed us to sort of reflect on what happened before. This picture here, that's the Buddhapanath stupa. Did I pronounce that right? Bodhanath, yes. I added a P in there for some reason.
Oh
no. Which we were staying in a guest house that was really close. It's a major site for Buddhists. It was really beautiful up close. And from our roof, we had a view of that, so you can bet we spent a lot of time up there. And one of the mornings, a couple of the mornings, we spent some time with Carissa, Carissa, who she was one of the adults on the trip who were with us. She was really great. And one of the things that we did in the morning was sometimes we did these yoga sessions. And it was just a nice time to sort of relax and get together, because the morning's always the worst part of the day. So it was nice just sort of centering ourselves before the day began. And it was in these nice, quiet moments that we got opportunities to talk. We could speak with each other. It doesn't even have to be like a structured conversation, even just like talking a bit at the end of the day before we go to bed. And we get to reflect on what we'd experienced before in the day. We got to look back, and a great aspect of this was we got to see things from different points of view. Because I might have seen something and took away something happy from that, but someone else might have seen something and seen something sad. And we each would see different parts of the different things that we'd seen. And at the end of the day, we'd come together, talk about it, and bring these different parts together, and we'd sort of just form one picture of it. And it's through this connection, through this conversations that we had, that I feel like it expanded my experience of Nepal. It really helped me understand the impact of our trip and the impact it had on each of us, not just myself. Community and connection, I'd say, was just a huge, major part of this trip, and by far it was my favorite aspect. The whole trip itself was great though, and I'd just like to thank everyone for being there, supporting it. Elise, Matthew, that was great. It was a wonderful trip. Any questions?
What are they eating?
Oh yes, I put this photo here just for that reason. These are called lassis. I think they originated in India, but they're very popular and very tasty. This is the one place was selling them outside. These were just great. It's like a sort of yogurt drink, and these ones had little nuts in them. It's very sweet. Yes.
So after returning, and after you had all this experience with a small group connecting in a different environment, how was it to come back and integrate back here?
It was very sad because, I had no one to spout my Napoleon stuff at. My family's gotten a bit tired of constantly talking about Napoleon. So. I was tempted to call someone just at random and just be like, hey, you want to hear this interesting fact about Napoleon?
You all are still pretty connected.
Yeah, we made a little chat in this messaging app thing. I still haven't figured it out yet. But.
We have random Napoleon facts sometimes.
We need more
Two.
facts. We need more random facts throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
How did you connect with the other people that were your age that you met there?
I mean, most of them were older, but like around the same age, So with the HCC kids, the Himalayan Children's Charity kids, it was really like the bus rides and the walks. We were able to just like ask questions about I feel like the things that really got us to know each other the best were when we just asked questions about like everyday things, just like subtle differences. Because it's really just surprising, just the difference even between everyday things, like board games that are different, just how their schools are different. it's all just like learning about these differences sort of got us interested in each other and wanted to know more about each other's lives there. So that sort of brought us together to be more connected.
Were
Yes.
they especially interested in your life in the U.S. or you personally, or some of both?
I feel like sometimes with the music, they sort of knew a lot about American culture, but they were asking about some things. Like I tried to explain fencing, because I do that. It's sort of hard to use words because fencing, like I don't know what the Nepali word for that is. And it's sort of hard to explain, sword fighting, just like in that way, It's not just whacking sticks or something. So like the sports, because I do crew and fencing, I tried talking about that. I tried starting a conversation about George Washington. After some glances from the rest of the youth ambassadors, though, I sort Yes?
What did you find you had in common with them?
In common. I feel like a lot of we all played soccer at some point of our lives. I mean, I'm not a big soccer player, but we'd all done it. School being overwhelming. I feel like they were very I have a sister. You know. Why am I have a sister. So the way that they interacted with each other was very sibling-like. So that was sort of like a connection, and we were all friendly. So we were able to sort of find similarities over that. It was just a lot of just really simple things like that that really got us to just know each other and see what was similar. Yes?
What's something you experienced that you think will remain with you forever and make an impact on your life?
Ooh. I feel like that's the entire trip sometimes. Let me see. There was this one time, it was like the second or third day, or first day. One of the first days, in the first quarter, we walked into, it was right by the, let me find the image, right by the stupa there. There was a little, miniature, shrine, monastery thing. Is there a word for
The Peace Park?
the building with the balcony on it?
This is a monastery.
Monastery. Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure I was using the right word there. So there was a building with a monastery, and we went inside, and I was sort of admiring the statues, and I look over, and there was some of the other people were talking with a monk, and he sort of gestured for the rest of us who weren't talking to Ray to come over, and we sat down around him, and we just had a real nice conversation with him, and it was interesting because it was the first talk that I had with a monk there, the Buddhist monk. So it was this new lifestyle I was exposed to, and just this simple conversation. And after a whole life of just seeing Buddhist monks and pictures and movies, just having this chill conversation. We talked about he went to New York once, right?
Yeah.
And just he's oh, where are you guys from? And we were oh, we're from New York, He's oh, I've been there, So it was just this nice subtle conversation that I feel stay. It's definitely not like the most major part of the trip, but I feel like just that first just this little subtle conversation that really, it'll stick with me. Accidentally.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really interesting moment because we were walking through and he was pointing at me and I was like, what, me? Like, what are you going? He was like gesturing for me to come over and I was like, I don't know you, like, okay. And so I went and sat down and I was kind of like, who is this guy? What's happening? And then he was curious about what was going on and so like other people would like start walking by and he just gestured for them to come over and we were all just sitting on these little mats in the corner and he was just curious about us and our lives. It was really cool.
That is really weird, because if that happened here,
Yeah, it was
you'd be
creepy.
like, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
You.
So you stepped out of life as you know it, went to a very ancient, very different culture. What was it like to come back here? Did you see life here differently having been outside in Nepal?
I definitely felt like pretty different, because like I got back and just like noticing like the differences in just everything. Everyone's always on their phones all the time. We didn't really go on our phones because, you know, we were in Nepal, there was stuff around us. And just like, and then school started and everything was like so fast paced. And in Nepal, like, we did so many things, but it felt like I don't know, everything was so important that time sort of felt slower in a way. You know, it's just my perception of it. But then I got back and it's just like, oh, this is happening again, you know, school. I don't enjoy that. Yes.
What was the hardest part of the trip for you?
Hardest part? Oof. Hardest part. There's many parts of the trip. Hardest part. Perhaps like there was a moment where we were just walking along the street, and like there was like a homeless man on the side. Well, I think he was homeless because like he didn't have like anything with him, and he was sleeping on the road. And like the picture that Chlyo here showed with like the malnourished man on the ground, like it was someone who looked very similar. And like we were just walking by, just going where we needed to go, and like I sort of like just paused for a moment, like to myself, and sort of like looked over, and I'm like that's someone who's like just like that's another human being who's like on the street, you know. It's not very good. There's another incident with a dog. Yeah, that wasn't the worst. That was far from the worst, but it was the physically the worst, because it had some sort of illness. It wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst. And then there was we went out to one of the first school. Was that Tinkanaya? That was.
Yeah, good.
I pronounced something right. So we went out. It was outside of the Kathmandu Valley. We took a bus right there, and the houses there, like it's like, you know, it was very different from the city, the main Kathmandu city. It was like a rural region. A lot of the places like were very small, and there was like tin roofs and stuff. It was like very different from what I knew at home. It's sort of, so like I don't think it was like the worst part of it, the trip, because you know there's the guy who was like on the street, but just seeing that like so many people like live with like these like the bare necessities. It was sort of just saddening a bit. Yes.
I think mine has to be the last question because we have a little bit of a time frame here, but what lessons, well, not lessons, but can you bring, or how can you bring some of that connection and community into your life here in Madison Valley? And if you can do that briefly, Owen, I would love hearing you talk, but we do need to, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I feel like a large part of our trip, the reason why we were able to connect so quickly is that we were experiencing something new and going through something that was both hard and beautiful. But in a way, life is sort of like that. You know, we're going through something new every moment. And in everyone's life, there's things that are good, there's things that are bad. So in a way, this Nepal trip is sort of just our life, but condensed and faster. And that's why we got together so quickly and in a sort of community. So if I could reflect that, like recognizing that everyone else is going through this journey, like with me, in a way, that we're all experiencing different things, but we're all connected. I could use that to sort of try to connect with people, you know, try to reach out, try to be like, hey, want to reflect on this? In different words, of course, but that general meaning.